So with that coat of paint, I've been gingerly cleaning up the seams. Try not to force it too much. The rear ones weren't too bad, they seem to fit okay. I am worried about this support arm here, or this tensioning arm, whatever it's called. The one supplied had broken off, but thankfully we've got this support strut here, so it should help. The front ones, the pins needed a lot of cleanup, just for them to fit around here. And I didn't want to force it because there was so many issues, as I said, with these hairline cracks around here. That's where most of them were. So they're okay now, just two pieces. You get two plastic parts for the Scissor Link here. The hubs come in three parts. You get this central disc, fits in like that, and that cap goes over the top. And then here's one glued earlier. It just makes the hub movable. I've tested the tyres and they fit nicely, and the nice thing about them is they're not solid. So when they fit on and you put a bit of weight on, you get that bulge at the bottom. Quite a nice touch, that. So once I've assembled these undercarriage parts, I want to dry fit them to the actual body because the Chinook has a certain stance, and I want to make sure or see if Trumpeter have captured that. If not, then I can do some amending before I get on to painting them and adding the obligatory hydraulic line. So I'll get on with gluing these parts, and then I'll dry fit them to the body and see whether it's got that Chinook stance. So I've dry fitted, and what I mean by that is that these holes in the plastic needed drilling out considerably. It took about 3 or 4 attempts before I got them to fit, and even then they're quite snug, which I'm not complaining about. So is me using PVA glue, both sides, and the same here. I haven't fit them in properly, I haven't pushed them in properly because I want to get them out. These 3 holes here needed widening as well. So if we parts in, before that I'll add a bit of PVA glue. Well, I'm happy with that. That has that slight incline. Great. So that's all the undercarriage assembled, built up. I've added the hubs to the metal parts. I usually leave the hubs off. It's just easier to paint and detail up while they're off. You can see here I've added a couple of plastic strips just to strengthen this part up. It just started to disintegrate. There was no hairline cracks, but it's almost like this is completely brittle. I've added brake line pipe, and I've added some plastic rod just to give these pots a bit of depth. Front legs, same there. Bit of brake line work, bit of Tamiya tape to act as clips, bit of plastic card for a P-clip. So all these will be painted black. So I'm going to get cracking on with that. So I've given them a coat of black, and then from above a coat of a lightish grey just to catch the highlights. So next thing to do is to add some sort of panel wash to these, and then I can start adding the tyres. So I'm just going to come in with a black wash now. Now I'm just messing around with a bit of odourless thinner, enamel, and I'm rubbing off with fingers and a bit of cloth. So I think that'll do. I'm starting to take the paint off here, so I'm just going to leave it. I've done the other ones. So I'll put them to one side and I'll make a start on the tyres. Come on, focus. So the scene gone now. I can focus with the next stage. Clean the tyres up. By that I mean I've washed them in some detergent, just clean any dust and grease and what have you. Paint them all using a mixture of rubber black and a bit of dark blue. Royal blue, is it? I can't see. A bit of blue anyway. Spray them all. So the next thing I wanted to do was to add some dirt to the side of the walls, usually a bit of mud. And what I do is using watercolours, make a few muddy washes, load it up and put it on a t-shirt, any bit of material that's flat. This has to be soaking wet, and then with the wheel just ride it along so you get some of that colour up the side of the wall of the tyre. Once that's dry, I'll add just ordinary plain water and just wipe the excess off like that. This may take a few attempts, but I'll let it dry and then I'll come back and see whether it needs another attempt, and then we'll have a look at this when it's finished. I use watercolour because sometimes it doesn't always work. Either the colour's not right mix or it just doesn't look right. And with watercolour you just wash it all off and start again. So the sock here and the watercolour paint, it's just acting like a muddy ground, and you just roll in the tyre like it would do on muddy ground. Trial and error and messing around, and I find I can get some pretty good effects. So they're all dry now. Pick, so you get the idea of what that method can do. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't, as I've said, so, and it is a matter of getting the colours right. So I need to soften these a bit with a damp brush, but I'll do that when I put them on the hubs. So that's all the undercarriage done now. And these will be added later on down the line. Now I can get back to these, not that I want to. Last night I thought I'd use some enamel paints. I don't know what the names are, but they're number 93. and 12 is copper colour. Very little of this, just enough just to give it a slight twinkle. And then with a very, very dry brush, just brushed on around these ridged areas around here. So what I want to do next is mask off these areas so I can paint these ridged areas a lighter colour. So that's the masks applied. So I'm just going to mix the colour up for these ridges here. It's almost like a white, purpley, pinkish colour. It's a strange colour. Mauve, maybe, even. So I'm going to use oils. I may have used enamels, but I don't have enough colours, or the right colours. So I'm going to mix the oils up now, and then dry brush them on these ridges. So using oils, a blue and a red to give me this lavender sort of colour. Got quite a bit of paint on there, don't need a lot. So those are going to be left to dry thoroughly, probably a couple of days before I take the tape off. And we'll have a look at the damage then. Right, let's peel the tape off these, see what we've got. So what I might do next, so not now, because I'm going to have a bit of a think about it. I may just add some, where is it? I did have it somewhere. Some Tamiya smoke, thinned down considerably, just to see if it improves this any. So I'll get on with demasking this one. So a very light coat of Tamiya smoke applied, and then a Vallejo gloss varnish applied over that. I'm just going to let them dry now. It's hard to tell what they're going to look like until they've been attached to the finished model, and only then I may make some amendments. But at the moment I'm quite happy to live with them as they are. So hopefully now I can get with some more important stuff. So what did I just say? Do something more important, or more important stuff? Well, here we go. Might be more important, but it certainly drains the enthusiasm out of me. So I've had to scratch build all these antennas and aerials, and whatever you want to call them. Don't take this as gospel that exists on the Chinook that I'm making. There's probably going to be discrepancies here and there, so please don't shoot me down. So I've made all these from what I can see from underneath, out of plastic card and brass rod. These are loop antennas, I think they're called. I'm not too sure about those. We've got these strange little cube things that sit on the top. So they're all done. They just want painting up, and these will be added once again at the very last moment, because if I add them any sooner, I'll knock them off and break them. And I don't want to go through that pain barrier of recreating them again. So they can be put to one side. What else? These Chaff dispenser boxes. These are just made from thin plastic card, and you can see where I've bolted up that box shape using thicker card just to get some strength when I came to sand these bits. I also did these, I think they're called warning receiver or radar warning receivers. I'm not too sure on the technical term. So a bit of plastic rod, and then I've used some squadron grey putty. I just put a big blob of it on the end. It will take 2 or 3 days to dry properly, and then sanded it to shape. There's 2 of those, one on the nose and one on the rear. Pitot tubes and I think they're the whip antennae. So there's the kit's part there, that grey bit. And I just trimmed it down because it's just literally a pitot tube, just a point. I used a bit of plastic rod, drilled out a hole to fit onto this, and then drilled 2 holes, one for the pitot and one for this whip antennae, I think they call it. And then just super glued them together. It's a bit basic, but it might look better with a bit of paint. So that's one, and the other one. What else? Yes. Now looking at photographs, it's something I missed, and there's a couple more bits I need to make, I think. I start to make, let's get this out of the way. These look lovely and crude. You can see how I've made these, just literally throwing them together. These, I think, are what they're called infrared flare launchers, and these sit on the back of the rear housing. So I've got to whip these into shape, so you can see what they look like now. I will show you, which will be no time for you, but a few days for me, what these look like once I've sanded the life out of them, or sanded some shape into them anyway. So there's those 2 to do. There's a couple of wedge shaped things that sit on the rear housing as well. I don't know what they are. So I've still got to clarify. This is what I mean. There's a lot of stuff on there that finding detailed pictures of is very hard. You just get this basic shape. So that's those. What else? I started to fit this assembly to the body. Now, it wasn't a bad fit, but if you look at photographs, doesn't seem to be any seam there at all. It's quite flush. There's a step here, some panel line that is quite prominent. So this area took quite a bit of work, even though it was a pretty good fit. I've still got to paint it and just see if there are any more blemishes. This is a second attempt. Just find little defects here and there that need sorting out. On the other side, yeah, you can see there, I've added some more putty. Unfortunately, I'm losing quite a bit of detail here, but I can add some of that, but not all of it. I can never, as I said before in videos, you can never rectify the actual kit manufacturer's panel lines or rivet holes. You can never do that. You can try, but it'll always stand out. I think that's it. Oh, there's some meshes that sit on here that are supplied with the 47D variant. On the photographs, they're blanked off. There is no mesh. So I've put a blanking plate on, put some filler on, and I'll sand that flush later on. And the same, see, there's a rear mesh that sits on here. So I'll blank that as well. That'll need sanding as well. I think that's, oh, so much to remember. Looking at photographs, there are a couple of what we call like L-shaped brackets either side. They almost look like you would fit something on and you would use them to move them forward and backwards, but they sit both sides, so I'll have to add them. And I think that's it for all the bumps and lumps. As I said just previously, there's probably stuff I'm going to miss out, or maybe add stuff that shouldn't be there. So I'm going to get on with sanding those infrared flare launchers. So I've sanded the life out of these and my fingers, and I've got a basic shape. I always check when things are supposed to be similar shape. You just do a little, just check that they're near enough. I mean, they're going either side of the rear housing, so it doesn't really matter, but there's a few chunks that I've torn out here with the filing. That's probably my fault, just being a bit too keen. So I'm just going to let this dry, and then I'm going to fill these spots with a bit of filler, a few coats of paint, and hopefully they could be put on the Chinook. So I gave these a coat of Mr. Surfacer last night. I just brushed it on and then just sanded a few of the blemishes off. So these can be glued on now. Now look, I don't have to mark off the position because I can use the panel lines, which funny enough coincide with the actual Chinook by the looks of it. They'll seat round here. Would help if we got it the right way around, wouldn't it? Next are the sandwich boxes. This pig in foam will focus. I noticed there's a little disc on one of the faces. So I've marked off roughly where this sandwich box will go. He says, full of confidence, must make sure I get the sensor right now. I think it's that way it has to be. So, sorry, I'm mumbling to myself. I won't glue them properly, I've just tacked them in place, and I'll come back later on just to look at it afresh, because usually you can see all sorts then, so if I have to I can just knock them off. I'm going to do the other side. The other sandwich box, see what I've marked off in pencil, then we can see that. I must be careful not to knock the other side off while I'm fiddling about with this side. I'm just going to leave it now and come back to it later and just have a second look at it and see if anything stands out, and then I will bond them a bit more securely than they are now. I will also use some Vallejo putty just to give a bead around this edge here so it blends into the fuselage a bit better. This one doesn't need it, but this one does. One other thing I did want to mention that drove me nuts, this part here, this oil cooler cover. Now it's quite a distinctive shape, and I spent ages looking for this part. I could have just looked at the instructions and the sprue layout, and it could have told me straight away, but I didn't. I thought this part's quite distinctive, I know what it looks like, and I spent hours looking for it, couldn't find it on any of the attachments. I looked at the boxes, I had a big clear out of the whole man cave, it drove me at the wall, and I thought, I'm not going to have to create this, I hope. And it's only per chance when I was looking at transparent parts, I saw it there, attached to them. It's my own fault for not just going simply to the parts locator. That's the last thing in my mind, that I'd have thought this part would have been transparent. And just by pure chance, as I was tidying things and putting things back, I came across the transparent parts, and there it was, staring me in the face, laughing at me. So thankfully I don't have to create that, and that's that. Now for the next stage, I'm going to be concentrating on a few other things, but one of the first things will be assembling the whole cockpit, chairs, consoles, masking the canopy, and then attaching the canopy. So I want to thank you for watching, and I do hope to see you for the next one.